It's nice to come out as FI. I remember coming out as way late to FI, as a late starter in January of 2023 in a blog on Humble Dollar done by the late Jonathan Clemens, where it was titled Saving Our Retirement. And shortly thereafter, Becky Heptig and I started the podcast, and the rest is history. We had made every mistake in the book, and the message here is you can do that and you can recover. We are resilient. We are late starters. We've lived life. It's thrown things at us. And this is just another thing that we can recover from. Welcome to Catching Up to FI, a podcast on mindset, money, and life for late starters of any age on their journey to financial independence. I'm Bill, and I'm a late starter.
I'm Jackie, and I'm also a late starter, and we're your host. We're here to help you on your journey to financial independence, no matter where you're starting.
We're going to talk to experts, other late starters, and explore topics related to our mission.
Join us as we catch up to FI together. Welcome back to Catching Up to FI. Boy, do we have a special episode for you today. Believe it or not, Catching Up to FI has been around for 3 years. And the guy that started it all, the founder, is Bill Yount. You hear from him every single week. And he just hit a huge milestone that we really want to talk about today. I really want to talk about it because I believe everyone is going to get so much out of it. So, Bill, how are you doing today?
Jackie, it's 2026. I'm so excited for a new year. And I'm just grateful and hopeful for, an abundant future for us at Catching Up to FI and for our audience.
Yeah, so even though I'm sure everyone knows you, we get new listeners every day. We're very grateful for that. Let me do a short formal introduction. So Bill Yount is a practicing ER physician. He's a husband and father of twin boys who didn't discover financial independence until age 50. He's also my brilliant podcasting co-host and founder of Catching Up to FI. So after years of living paycheck to paycheck and feeling trapped on this hedonic treadmill, he made a dramatic pivot. He cut expenses, increased savings, simplified his life, and he steadily reclaimed control of his money. It's been exactly 3 years since he started the Catching Up to FI podcast, and he openly shared his late starter story on episode number 1. And today we pick up from there because Bill just hit a huge milestone. He has officially reached financial independence. Woohoo! This is why we're so excited. But in this episode, we'll get all the juicy details of his journey and what fuels his mission to show others that it's never too late to change course. Mr. Financial Independence, yay!
Oh, Jackie, thank you. It's nice to come out as FI. I remember coming out as way late to FI, as a late starter in January of 2023 in a blog on Humble Dollar done by the late Jonathan Clemens, where it was titled Saving Our Retirement. And shortly thereafter, Becky Heptig and I started the podcast, and the rest is history. Not many podcasts last 10 episodes, let alone 3 years, and have 1.4 million downloads because there was a need to have a voice for our community out there. So I'm so excited to be here today and try and give our audience a little inspiration now that say, hey, I have reached that number, but it's so much more than a number. And I hope we talk about that today.
Yeah, it is so much more than that number. We have discussed it with a lot of our guests, especially some of our other late starters. And now we get to pull back the curtain with you. I guess I wanted to start out, again, congratulations. That's just such a big deal. I remember when I hit that number and it just feels great. Now, I think a lot of people, including myself, had this thing about, I guess, seeing doctors as being these rich people. They're making big money. And we're thinking, shouldn't they all be financially independent? But I've learned a lot by co-hosting with you. That's not the case. Pretty much more money, more problems. But I would like for you to talk a little bit more about that. You were a highly paid doctor. You had a working spouse. What is it like in the doctor world, and you as a doctor, in terms of your finances and becoming financially independent? Aren't all doctors financially independent?
No, not in the least. Jim Daly of the White Coat Investor has taken on this problem for doctors. Yeah, the word rich seems to be always associated with doctor, and it's just not true. The numbers are bigger and we work hard to get there, but we have a naturally late start because we really don't start in our 30s, and we start way behind with 6 figures of debt often these days. So there's a big rock to carry there, and it's a longer journey in some ways. And I was a paycheck to paycheck guy, as you said. I came out of residency with just a ton of delayed gratification and got all the big rocks wrong. Big, huge house, built a house, renovated the house, leased cars, bought new cars with the payments, and just lived this life where lifestyle inflation got away from us. There was really no intentionality to it, no thought. And like many late starters, we got caught up in life. And though it was a more expensive life, I would say that I'm no different than our audience in many ways, because we all have our lifestyle. And I don't want people to think that I'm disconnected from them, who, on the other hand, had a less than 6-figure income for your career. And you retired before me. You retired at 69, right. And I'm still not retired. I'm still a working stiff now, actually, by choice. And we can get into talking about that too.
Yeah, I appreciate you clarifying that, because that was always my assumption. Is doctors make, I don't know, $100, $200, $300, $400,000 a year. And it's like, how on earth do you not be okay with your money? But we've seen lottery winners, we've seen big time actors and entertainers and athletes that they make all this money and they end up blowing it, or their lifestyle is bigger than whatever that income is. So you just got to scale it. And that was probably one of the biggest things I've learned by podcasting with you. Our lifestyles are just a little bit different. You might want to add a couple zeros, but it's the same concept. So thank you for that. So I'm always curious how you knew you reached financial independence. Did you believe your numbers? Did you use the typical FIRE formula? Tell me a little bit about that.
That's interesting. And one more comment about the doctors that I'd like people to understand. Yes, the average salary, it may be $325 to $375 for a doctor coming out of residency, okay, with that big debt burden. But 25% of doctors don't have $1 million when they reach their 60th birthday. There is a huge problem there. It's hard to believe that's the case, because their human capital over their lifetime really is big, but it gets lost in the wash of life. It trickles through their fingers. And I hate to see this problem among doctors that are pretty desperate at times. Everybody can get into this issue. It doesn't take being quote unquote rich, which I really don't like that word. But at any rate, you asked the question, how did I know I was FI? I'm not a spreadsheet guy. Don't dig into the details. And I was a reverse budgeter. Rather than spend first and save last at tax time, which is what we did, and we were single-digit savers. It was like, okay, this is left over, let's put it in the market. We were not dollar cost averaging. We weren't tracking the market as it went up. We made huge mistakes, say at the Great Recession, where we had renovated a house to the nines, basically rebuilt it, and the bottom fell out. We were underwater, upside down in the house. We were house poor, leaving us not really able to save anymore. We were scared, so we de-risked and sold. You just keep buying? No, we sold stocks and bought bonds against our quote-unquote private bank financial salesman advisors' advice, but they didn't really educate us and tell us not to do this. We were in the dark with our heads in the sand, and at that point, we missed out on, I don't know, a third or half of this grandiose, wonderful bull market that's been running since then, that a lot of our FIRE community that FI'd recently all wrote it up because, as Brian Feraldi says, just keep buying. There was a ton of big mistakes, really big rock mistakes on the beginning of the journey, and you need to know where you stand first. And I had no idea. I didn't know what a net worth was. There was no such thing as a budget for us. We paid our bills and we didn't get into credit card debt, but it was just a month to month, paycheck to paycheck, not even year to year plan. There was no plan. There was no investor policy statement. There were really no goals other than to live in the present and lead the best life. Now, that left us with a lot of memories, which is a great superpower for late starters. We haven't deprived ourselves in order to reach this number. Okay. And we did not live a deprivation lifestyle, but we didn't lead a balanced lifestyle, which is my goal for our audience, which is my goal for everybody that's trying to reach financial independence. So there's a life arc and a financial arc on this hero's journey that we're all on in managing our lives, enjoying our lives, and using money as a tool to create experiences, memories, relationships, gratitude, giving, all of these sort of principles and values that come first. The mindset comes first. And you asked, how did I know I got to FI? I had a rough idea. The market's been really good the last few years, and we've been saving 40%. Your savings rate, as we know, is your real superpower. Cut your expenses, increase your income, increase the gap, and make sure you invest it, just the Donegans have told us and try and hammer home. But there's no magic buttons. There's no easy way to get there. It can be a 10, 15-year, 20-year journey. But anything you do to move in that direction gives you better financial health, better sleep factor, emotionally, just better balance and more security, which I think and control, which we all seek, actually. The first episode was a boat called YOLO, and that's how we lived our lives. But we got into the messy middle. We had gone down the rabbit hole. We started doing the work. We knew it was going to take us, based on Mr. Money Mustache's, the shockingly simple math of early retirement, but it's really retirement in general. We knew it was going to take 10, 12, 15 years or so, we thought. So starting at 50, 51, 52, with a 40% savings rate, that's a 12 to 15-year journey if you do the math. That's just the way it is. So that was my expectation. And we were 8, 9, 10 years into the journey. And I didn't math it out, really, because I didn't honestly still know my exact average monthly expenses. That's a number you can know. That's the number that is critical to multiply your 25 times for the 4% rule. But as we'll talk about, there's a superpower tool that you can use to exit earlier and have a higher safe withdrawal rate with a lower nest egg that allows you to retire earlier. And I want to talk about that too. But I promised myself at about 8 years in, 9 years in, when I turned 60, to have a retirement readiness project assessment. I promised myself that I would go to a financial advisor. I would do the deep dive to find a real financial advisor, one of the good guys or girls that's in the 10% that we're really looking for in our community. And I would have them give me an unbiased look at the numbers so that I knew where I stood. And we did that right after my 60th birthday trip to South Africa with Frank and Mary, Uncle Frank. And I was a little nervous because I didn't know if I was going to be told, you got 3 more years. And I was like, okay, that's what I was planning. We'll keep plodding along. I was getting nervous given this bull market and the whole fear of the AI bubble that I couldn't afford a crash, which would extend my working career. I had to find out, did I need to transition to a more retirement portfolio, which we can talk about too. So we did the assessment beginning in November. We went through the work, did the math, and we came for the presentation of kind of the plan. And he told me, yeah, you're fine. I sat there. I was a little shocked, and Karen was sitting there with me when we went over this. And it's one of those things like paying off your mortgage, where it's a huge milestone for you. We went to the teller to write the big check to pay off our mortgage. The teller said, great, thank you very much, sign here, next customer. And we were like, where's the fireworks? Where's the balloons? Where's the crowd cheering in the background? And FI felt like that. It was big whoop at the same time as it was whoopee. It was just a number at that point. And then there's so much more to it.
Yeah, so I have a few questions. So before you decided to see the planner, did you use the 25 times your expenses as your loose basis, or you had to have some way of knowing that you were even close before you got it confirmed?
I'm wearing my Monarch hat, and I'll give a shout out to Monarch. And I had started tracking expenses 3 years ago, which I think is a critical thing to do throughout your journey, but especially in the 3 to 4 to 5 years before you reach five, because you got to know where you stand. You got to have a couple of years of data that you can average out, because there's a lot of lumpy expenses. There's your monthly fixed, your variable, and your comfort expenses. And you got to have an idea of what those are so that you can multiply by something if you don't have that. And 1 month doesn't do it. 3 months don't do it. A year is probably good enough, but then there are lumpy, bumpy years where we bought that car this year or 2 cars this year, and that's not going to happen every year. So yeah, over 3 years. And then Brian helped us really organize it and spreadsheet it out to use the data we had accumulated. And you can run reports and know, and I can look at it month to month. And then we knew what our spend roughly was, but I didn't nail it down. You can nail it down to the dollar virtually, and then you multiply it by 25, and that's your regular FI. There's lean FI, fat FI, coast FI, lots of FIs. And I thought we might be coast FI, where we could stop saving and then kind of coastify. That's what I thought was happening over the next 2 or 3 years, where I would be working at my current pace. But yeah, he said, you could retire tomorrow. And I'm like, I'm not ready. I'm not ready to retire tomorrow.
That's always some good news, right?
And my wife definitely isn't ready to retire tomorrow. She loves her job. I'd had a love-hate with my job for the longest time.
Yeah, we all do, I think.
And I had been burned out for years, and where it was a job, not a passion. And FI is the best cure for burnout, right? All of a sudden you have that weight off your shoulders, you have leverage, you can walk away, you have choice, you have autonomy, you have time freedom potentially. And the first thing my wife said to me after he told us your FI was, when you go to work tomorrow, you can't complain because you're now choosing to go to work. So yeah, that was big. It was immediately, choice was a big, big boom.
Yeah, and that's one of the big powers of reaching financial independence. It doesn't mean you have to retire. We don't need to get caught up on the retire early part, but having the ability and being in a position where you can makes all the difference. Are you behaving differently at work? Does work feel different?
That's interesting, because I hate the word retire, just I hate the word rich. Wealthy is a better word, abundance a better word, and retire is better replaced with separation from service, separation from your day job, separation from a little bit indentured servitude if you're burned out, and separated from work that's required, where if your butt isn't in the chair or doing this and you have active income that you can save, you're not done yet. So it's different. It's a separation. It's a loss. It's an identity crisis. And if you don't, like Fritz Gilbert says in his episode, prepare for this time with the soft sides of pre-retirement, where what's going to be your purpose, identity, connection. You leave work and you lose all those wonderful work connections. When I show up at work, they say, we're so glad you're here. We love that you're here. We love working with you. And I have great relationships with everybody. And leaving work isn't just leaving the burnout, is leaving things that actually bring you joy and value in life. And how are you going to replace that? And if you haven't prepared for that, and it's only a number that you seek, you're going to be one of the 30% that is immediately depressed for a period of time until you figure it out. I am so excited to announce our new partnership at Catching Up to FI with Monarch. Monarch is a comprehensive financial tool to monitor your financial health and life. I have been using Monarch for 3 years to track my spending, net worth, budget, savings goals, and more. I am not a spreadsheet nerd, and without Monarch's robust, intuitive tools and user interface, this process would have seemed impossible. I was recently also able to seamlessly share my data with our new flat fee financial planner for a retirement readiness checkup when I turn 60. He uses Monarch with all of his clients. After our analysis, I was shocked to find out that we were financially independent 3 years before I thought we would be. You can't manage what you don't measure. Using Monarch was critical in this review and planning process and remains important in monitoring my ongoing financial health. Thanks to Monarch, all of our podcast listeners and community members have access to a 50% discount off their first year subscription. Simply follow the link below and use the discount code CATCHINGUP50 at checkout. I am proud to say that my sons are the first to use the code to join the Monarch family. I encourage you to share this link and code with family and friends who need or want to take back their money and grow their wealth.
I want to get into the financial planner that you saw and how you found him. His name is Brian, right? But I got a couple more questions before we kind of move on. And you talk a lot about your backstory in episode 1. So we're going to drop that in the show notes so you can get to know Bill a lot better before he reached 5. But I want to create a timeline, Bill. Okay. So we talked about you waking up. I think you were living in Chicago for a long time where you had the house and all that. Around 50, you woke up. I'm wondering if there was anything specific that woke you up. And then from there, years later, you started the podcast, you started tracking your spending. So create a timeline for our audience because our late starters, they want to get a really good sense of what about from A to Z? How long did it take and what were some of the steps? So create that for us.
Generally, there's a trauma is what I would say. There's some kind of health trauma, money trauma, personal trauma that generates a wake up. For me, it was several things that all collided. Number one, I turned 50 and I recognized that, hell, wait a minute. I don't know whether we're ready or on track for retirement. And then it's coming. 60, 63, 65, that's a runaway train. And I'm deer in the headlights and it's coming at me. And nobody is coming to save me. Just, I think a lot of our audience feels. We have a lot of divorce in there where there's results in a late start. My mother dealt with that. And in their 50s, she went back to work as a nurse and did 12-hour shifts for 15 years until she was 70, until she reached 5. I'm really grateful for that because she's financially independent, worked hard to get there, and it didn't become part of our financial trauma was to help care for her. And so that could have been a big financial hit, and that happens to our audience too. In my case, I turned 50. I was burned out from work. And I haven't said this before, but I'll say it now. One of the traumas of being a doctor that you don't realize is that the risk you are taking in order to practice your profession. 50% of doctors get sued in their career. People don't realize the trauma of the shame, the isolation, the feelings of poor self-worth. And I got sued. And I was like, oh my God, I was a perfectionist, type A, couldn't be wrong, like omnipotent, knew everything, great technically. That hit home. And all of a sudden I was like, I don't want to do this anymore. This hurts. And that was a deep, dark period. And that happened at the same time that I was burned out, that I turned 50. And I was like, wait a minute, I don't have any safety net. I can't choose to stop. Yeah, I could choose to pivot and just get out of the field. But when you've become accustomed to a lifestyle where you are acting and keeping up with the Joneses and maybe acting rich when you're not wealthy, which are a very important distinction, I had to stay the course, because I couldn't drop back to a low 6-figure or a 5-figure income and spend time pivoting, because our lifestyle couldn't take that kind of hit. And I couldn't put that pressure on my wife. So I doubled down. I was in therapy at the time. And I think for a lot of people, it's really important to take care of yourself, self-care. This journey, this hero's journey, can be devastating. The shame, the regret, the anger, all these negative emotions that we can get trapped in and get trapped in our past where it drags us down. And you have to let go of the past. You can't control it. The past is done. You need a fresh start and you need a fresh mindset. There needs to be some sort of cerebral, emotional, mental changes made before you even dive in and start to do things. Because if you act first, you may make a lot of mistakes and you have to just pause, take a breath. It's like Viktor Frankl's Man's Search for Meaning. There's a space between action and reaction, and you want to enhance that space, enhance the gap, so you gain clarity on where you're going and sit down, make a plan, seek out a mentor, seek out advice, because just like a lawsuit, when you have the shock of being financially dependent in your golden handcuffs, you need help, you need a plan, and you feel very alone. And being alone is devastating. That's why we created this community. We are catching up to FI together. You need to lock hands with people that are in the same situation. You don't want to feel siloed into your own life. There's a lot of shared experience across our community. And when you find out that you're really not different from anybody else, we all got there in our own ways, and we're all going to catch up to FI in our own ways. But there's a lot of shared experience and wisdom in doing it together in a community. And I'm really proud of us, Jackie, that we've created this space for people like us to share, be vulnerable. We have a very safe Facebook community. We're very vulnerable, like I've been today on the podcast. And I can't believe I actually said some of the things I said. But hell, when you're transparent and honest with yourself and you come out and shed all of these negative emotions, that helps you renew, find some rebirth. And that's what we're all going through.
So at around 50, you were shedding all of this stuff. It was a very pivotal moment. Okay, you turned the corner. And I know that you have been a part of the financial independence community for years. That's how we got to know each other. How many years after that huge turning point did you end up starting the podcast?
Oh, okay. 50 to 52, the podcast got started. It was 57. So yeah, that's not the time I entered the community. I entered the community about 2016. So if it's been 10 years, say it's 2025, about 2013 to 2015 is when I woke up. And because I had to know everything before I took the turn, I spent a year reading all these books you see behind me. I mean, the first book I read was William Bernstein's The Intelligent Asset Allocator, which is actually kind of personal finance 303. So I started in a very complicated way. I unfortunately didn't read things like The Simple Path to Wealth by J.L. Collins, who's now a dear friend. I didn't read the pamphlet by William Bernstein, If You Can, which I recommend to everybody before even The Simple Path to Wealth. And that's a great gift to anybody who's beginning their journey. So yeah, it was about 52, 51, and it took me a year to really take back my money. Our money was in a private bank with salespeople. We had bought whole life insurance from, I'm going to say it now because I just shed their disability policy, Northwest Mutual. The devil in personal finance, I hate to say.
I don't think they'll ever be sponsoring the show, right?
No, we had made every mistake in the book. And the message here is you can do that and you can recover. We are resilient. We are late starters. We've lived life. It's thrown things at us. And this is just another thing that we can recover from.
So, Bill, being a big part of the community shortly after you had your big turning point was the time that you took to be a part of the community to really learn and understand and work on yourself. And it sounds like within those years, you started seeing the gap of no one serving late starters. And that was your moment to say, you know what? Nobody's doing this. I think I will. And I think that's really important because you were well known in the community. That's how I met you. And you became a fixture and an important part of representing someone that's a little bit older that didn't have it all figured out right after college. So I appreciate you saying that. I also appreciate you being so open about that moment in which you woke up at 50 and all the things that collided to make you want to make a change. Now, you did mention the financial salespeople. Some of them call themselves planners. Now, For a while, I kind of felt that you were kind of anti-planner, anti-financial professional. However, you said that you did use a financial professional to help you figure out that you were fine, to help you with your finances. So I'd like to hear more about how did you find this person? What kind of research that you did? And what were you looking to get out of working with a financial professional?
I think at the beginning of your journey, it's really good to find a mentor. And there's a lot of great mentors in this space. Once you enter the space, everybody wants to help. Everybody's generous wherever they are in their journey. So you can find great advice as long as you ask around and aren't just asking your uncle, your brother, or whatever for a hot stock tip. That's not what you want. So you can do that. And on the beginning of your journey, you may not be able to reach out to your parents because they may not know and they may not be willing to share, which is what happened to me. There was a dearth of any information from them, a dearth of any information in grade school, high school, college, med school. Reach out for a mentor, I would say. Reach out to a flat fee, hourly, advice only, certified, fiduciary, personal financial planner. That's a lot of words, but the financial services industry is 90% full of people that operate under an old model. It's changing. There's a model, assets under management, where they put their straw in your milkshake and drink out of your milkshake to the tune of 1% of your assets. And you can't even get into that club till you have a net worth of 500,000 or so. So there's really not great access to early accumulators. Now, sponsor like Abundo Wealth, Nectarine, Jeremy Schneider's, and these guys have been on our podcast. We are trying to lift up the good guys. Sarah Catherine Gutierrez, a good friend of both of ours. I met her in 2018-19 at the very first White Coat Investor Conference. Her lecture and presentation on cash flow planning changed my life. Absolutely changed my life. She has a tax efficient waterfall, order of operations, which is very important out there. And I was like, boom. I get it. And I like to be organized. And this helped, literally. She was pivotal. There's a lot of people that were pivotal. And I didn't engage with a financial planner at that time. And what I realized is DIYing your finances and accumulation, once you have read 1, 2, 3 books, talk to a person, that's actually easy but not simple, as we say. You've got to take action in order to automate everything, grow the gap, grow your income, decrease your expenses, downsize your house, buy cars with cash, get rid of your subscriptions, the little things, the big things. You will find money that you never thought was there. And then using a spreadsheet or say for me, Monarch Money, which I didn't do early on. I bounced around from different softwares that helped consolidate things and help you really get a handle on not just the budget, but a comprehensive financial picture, because you can't change what you don't measure. And you can't manage what you don't measure. Just like you can't lose weight without weighing yourself, you can't grow your wealth without monitoring your savings rate, your investments to some degree, but not so much that you get emotionally attached to huge market swings. You got to be agnostic. In some ways, you keep putting your money into the market in aggressive, say 100%, 80%, 90% equities. And then if you don't look at it for 15, 20 years, you'll wake up like Rip Van Winkle, and you'll be financially independent. It's not magic, it's math.
Yeah. So the professional that you worked with, how did you find this person and what were you looking for? Because I see the question all the time where it's too general. They'll say, how do I find a good financial planner? That's a tough starting place, but you had to craft more details and be more specific about what you were looking for. So our audience is thinking, okay, if I want to find a great financial planner, how do I do that? You probably have to ask a better question. So what questions were you asking yourself that you needed to see in a financial planner to help you on this journey?
Yeah, it's a really good question. And it's a really hard question to answer. We had an episode with Cody Garrett that there's a standard list of questions that people will put out there to say, you got to make sure that they're this and this. But there's sort of philosophical things you really got to look at before you ask the specific questions. And there are ways you can answer a lot of those questions without having that conversation that might be a little intimidating, because sharing your numbers is kind of like getting naked in public. It can feel really vulnerable. And for me, without understanding the language of money, the language of personal finance, the language of the industry, its history, for example, and where it's been and where it's going, and knowing how to find the good guys or girls, that women or men, that are operating in the industry. There's only really 100,000 financial planners out there.
Like CFP professionals. I think it's like 115,000. And so you're right about that. So that was one of your criteria, that they had the CFP credential?
Yes and no. There are people that may not have the credential, but have the knowledge, but it really is nuanced. And you got to really be able to figure that out. I mean, not have that particular credential, because the credentials are an alphabet soup of even knowing what they are. You can see people with all these letters behind their name, and you got to look up, what does that mean? And is that important? And does it really tell me that they have the knowledge base that I need to answer the questions that I have? Because the CFP in some ways is a generalist, okay, that has had comprehensive education over the period of, say, 18 months and a really hard exam that gives them all the tax planning, estate planning, portfolio construction, which is only one aspect of what they do. Because a financial planner is, in many ways, a financial therapist. They're there to help you handle your emotions and to figure out your goals and help you reach those goals in a life planning kind of way. And there are financial planners that can be life planners. They're there to get to know you as a person, so they understand your strengths, your weaknesses, your goals, and that they can help map out all of the aspects of a financial life, and there's many, and potentially refer you to people that can help you answer specific questions, say in tax planning, where they maybe have all the strength you need to do it and help you find the answers. It's kind of like medicine, okay, 50 or 100 years ago, and it's got to evolve to a true fiduciary. People throw that word around, but they don't know what it really means, where they have your best interests at heart and are unconflicted in the advice they can give you. Advice only. They're not selling you a product. They're not referring you to their friends per se necessarily and getting a kickback. It is a relationship one-on-one. It's just like you go to a doctor, and we are focused on helping you with your health care. They have to be focused on helping you with your wealth care so that you avoid pitfalls and traps and blind spots and are able to wrap your head around a plan to reduce your debt and let you know that, okay, if you do this, you will get there in this time, and it's going to happen, except for the hiccups along the way where that happen in life. And to answer your question more specifically, I had to kind of be well on my journey before I really understood the true nuances of the questions to ask to find the right relationship with a human that had a lot of knowledge that I may have had. Can I do this by myself? Absolutely. You do it by yourself. A lot of DIYers do it by themselves. And I'm not a traitor to the DIY movement. I believe in it. And like I said, accumulation is very DIYable if you automate it and keep it simple, basically. There's sort of a formula for dealing with it. But as you reach the transition to retirement, there are a lot of balls in the air that are interrelated, decisions that you have to make in order to optimize your lifetime tax burden, for example. Things like IRMA and net investment income tax and Social Security claiming.
For those mean, right?
And Roth conversions. I mean, this is the alphabet soup of the language that you have to learn to speak. It's learning Spanish, French, German. It's a language we should all speak. We should all have it in school. And we should all come out with basic financial literacy and maintain curiosity, as we need pieces of that language and our fluency grows. So to answer your question, I probably would have had a much harder time answering this question without AI, believe it or not. I used artificial intelligence. Yeah, I knew some of the good guys to go to, and I asked them for advice, and I knew without AI that there were people that I would feel comfortable talking to. And believe it or not, they've been on the show, most of them. So just go through our show and you'll find a few of them. But I had a particular interest in an advisor who was a life planner and focused on retirees and drawdown, because my criteria were kind of, I had simple questions like, can I get rid of my disability insurance? Can I cancel my life insurance? And do I have a number where I am self-insured? My human capital is covered and everybody's good and they don't need a life insurance payout to reach FI if I was to pass away. But my first criteria was to insure my wife. She has no interest in finances. If I were to pass away today, it would be a catastrophe. She wouldn't know where everything is. She kind of knows where it is, but she definitely wouldn't be able to manage it. She definitely wouldn't be able to create a drawdown strategy. It's just not in her wheelhouse. It's not a strength. She's more of a visionary, big picture person that wants to live life and not focus on the money, which I really appreciate. I honestly do, because she pulls me out of the rabbit hole of, no, we really can't cut that, because that's an experience we want to have. And we have one life to live. It's our most precious resource. It's unrenewable. And you have to have a little bit of YOLO, because that's true, right? You really do only live once, but you can't be excessively YOLO. So we have a great balance there. But I have to make sure that she's insured and that there's a seamless transition to in our financial lives for her. That's an estate plan issue. And you've got to create the right relationship that she's comfortable with before you need it, where it isn't like, here's the person I've found. If I die, I want you to go to them. Well, that becomes like going to an ER. That becomes going to an emergency room where you have an emergency and we got to figure this out real quick so that I can pay the mortgage next month. So that was number one. Number two, I wanted to ameliorate or lessen cognitive decline is a real issue. I may not be as sharp in medicine as I once was. I may not be as sharp in finance as I once was. Who's going to take it over? I mean, my mom was scammed. We talked about this in another episode. Somebody messed with her finances and hell, all of a sudden, she was out a year's expenses because she thought her finances had been violated, and she was scammed because she was afraid. And that happens a lot to our elders. It's not an uncommon thing. And we've had an episode on that and how to protect yourself. So there was that, the cognitive decline. Yeah, it's not an issue now, but it will be. There's a bandwidth issue where I'd rather focus on life and not money. And having an advisor is going to help me do that. I let them worry about making sure the money is in the bank every month or every quarter for me to spend it robustly. And like Ramit Sethi says, live a rich life. So there was bandwidth issue and a focus on life issue. And then there were the specifics of portfolio construction and drawdown. And I wrote a long, almost a paragraph to a page of kind of a query. AI is only as good as the question you ask in the version of AI that is not going to just pull from trash.
Bill, which AI tool were you using specifically?
I use Perplexity because it's more specific and research-based. I did use ChatGPT-2. You can use multiple platforms and see if it comes up with the same thing. And so I had Life Planner, Retirement Drawdown, CFP, and then I wanted a knowledge base in portfolio construction because I wanted to hand my money off to them, which is a very vulnerable thing. Initially, it was a project-based flat fee plan, which allowed me to get to know this advisor, get to know how they worked, get to know how their mind worked. And so it was a finite plan, but then in that relationship of developing the plan, I'm like, yeah, I feel safe with this person. They do have my best interest at heart. They are looking at all the factors in this, not just the money or the portfolio construction. But one of the criteria I put in the query was I really wanted to work with somebody who was familiar with risk-parity portfolios. Oh, that's a scary word. It has risk in it. It has parity in it. But it's really mitigating the risk, de-risking appropriately from, say, a traditional stock bond boglehead portfolio. And a lot of accumulators just start to buy bonds to de-risk and have a 5% cash, 10% bond, 85% equity portfolio. Well, the danger there is you're going to have a 30 to 50% drawdown that lasts 5 years, or the market's flat for 10 years. And so the risk you're trying to mitigate, or the parity you're trying to achieve, is to not deal with having to have a long recovery. Now, the way it's often handled in our community is they're frugal. They're frugal savers that oversave and underspend. So that they can afford, their number is well under their net worth. So they can afford the drawdown and continue spending and living their lifestyle and mitigate the recovery. Now, for late starters in particular, we've talked about risk parity on the show, and you always come at me with like, oh, you're talking about portfolio construction, you're talking about the numbers. But for me, as a physician, and engineers get into this too, but I think the average FI person could get into this too and evolve their thinking potentially beyond the boglehead 30, 25-year-old, 30 simple path to wealth approach. Because in reality, what you're interested in moving into retirement is the simple path to wealth preservation, where you may not have the upside where your portfolio grows until death, because a lot of people identify with the money growing until death. But why do you want to die at your highest net worth and leave a bolus of money, like is maybe the philosophy in boomers? You want to spend lavishly on yourselves throughout retirement, which also includes giving. So you may not have the big upside, but you're really mitigating with these kinds of portfolios the downside, which is the bigger risk.
So what I hear you saying, Bill, you said we have a lot of do-it-yourselfers, and that's totally fine, especially if you want to keep your portfolio very simple. But you had some other ideas that you wanted help with. So you told us what things you really wanted a financial professional to do that you would not have to do. You talked about cognitive decline and things like that. And then you had to know what you were looking for before you could find that right person. And you used the tool AI Perplexity in order to do that. I commend you for that. To our listeners, you have to know yourself. Like, you're right. I did it as a do-it-yourselfer, although I'm very open and I have used estate planning professionals, tax professionals, and things like that. But again, I had to know what I was looking for. So I just wanted you to break that down for us. Now, what other tools were you using when it came to keeping track, organizing your finances with and without the planner?
I trusted but verified. I'm fortunate. I know a lot of really intelligent people in this community. So I bounced this off Bill Bengen. I bounced it off Frank Vasquez. I bounced it off Cody Garrett. I bounced it off Carolyn McClanahan, and I talked to her at length about her philosophy of retirement and distribution. Andy Panko, talked to him. And then I vetted the plan. I took the plan and I said, can you look at this and tell me, what do you think of in general, and then the numbers, and have I looked at some of these blind spots? Yeah, it's okay to trust, but it's really important to verify, especially with AI. And when I did use AI and I put in my specific query, right at the top, Brian Minogue, I'll give him a shout out at Cardinal Financial, he came up in multiple searches. And then there were a few other people, but the person I was looking for was a unicorn. Yeah. These people are unicorns. And you've got to talk to them. Yeah, use the list of questions, but before you do it, talk to somebody that really knows. Listen to our shows where we talk about what's important. That gives you a foundation to ask. But then, like I said, there's a lot of nuances to it. I wanted a life planner, an RLP. I wanted somebody that, and my planner quoted George Kinder, who's been on our show, on his website. And I had that in there. I wanted a retirement income planner where there's another credential. And then mine happened to have a CFA. I want them to have experience.
And what's a CFA, Bill?
A certified financial analyst, which is a much higher credential where you're learning institutional portfolio construction and management for high net worth people. What was interesting in Brian's story was he had done that for 10 years at an institutional level. And for lifestyle reasons, He got his CFP after that because he wanted to create a lifestyle business with a young family. He was 35 years old. And what people don't think about is, okay, it's one thing to get a planner, but if they're 55 and you're 55, they're not going to be working as long as you're retired. And so in going for an experienced youthful person, which I recommend for physicians too, you're at the top of your game, kind of in your 35 to 45 realm, and they can age with you. And so he gets to age with us, learn us, and carry us through a really long arc of retirement. It may not last the whole time, and hopefully we last to 90 or 100, but there'll be a great foundation, and then he can maybe hand us off to somebody who has his same philosophy. So there's that piece too. Experience, but youth. And some of the latest knowledge. Why not?
Any other tools that you were using that kind of got you there? That helped you track your spending and all of that and really know where your investments and all that was?
Yeah, I now use for the last 3 years, as I mentioned, Monarch Money. We just had an episode with Rachel, who is from Monarch Money, and it's a great tool. Krista Kim just did a post on our Facebook group today about the progress she's made in her FIRE journey. And she was the case study at Economy. She was on our show for an update, and she just gave our community an update. And she happens to use Monarch Money too. Now, people use, in all deference, YNAB and others, Tiller and other software tools that may work for them. The importance is that you use something, even with spreadsheets, if you're facile with that like you are. And we use that. And it's not just a budgeting tool. Hell, Monarch now uses AI where you can talk to it and ask of your data in an AI fashion, what is my net worth? What's the trajectory? When will I get to FI? In a conversation without knowing even the software sometimes. How much did I spend on dog food this year? How much did I spend on Starbucks?
AI is just getting better and better, and it's seeping into so many of the tools that we are using. You can use one standalone, or more than likely, whatever tools, there probably is some AI behind it. So Bill, how are you paying your planner? You mentioned flat fee, advice only, and all this type of stuff. So are you paying him a flat amount every year for ongoing services? How's that working?
Yeah, I mean, traditional is assets under management, which is a percentage of your liquid portfolio. And 1% may sound a little, but it adds up in a compound fashion against you a lot. And you got to ask about value. Do you get what you pay for? Quite honestly, if you're at a 1% AUM on a $5 million portfolio, well, that's not nothing. That's $50,000 a year. And are you getting that kind of value? Be an intentional, informed shopper. And so I didn't want to pay that. And so I had to dig into that. There is a form that you can look at that if a planner is truly one of the good guys, they'll be very transparent. If you go to their website, it'll be right there. It will not be hard to find. Their fee structure, their philosophy. And at the bottom of their homepage will often be this little link that says ADV2, which is a form that they have to file with the SEC that lays out their philosophy, their fiduciary responsibilities, how they make their portfolios, and if they manage people's money, and then their fee structure. And so you can read that, and you should. And then there's also disclaimers if they had any suits against them, any complaints. So you can find out, hey, and you should search for that. And does this person had any problems? Do they have a clean record? Now, you have to evaluate that because there may just be angry clients that do things. But if there's transparency, it makes it a lot easier because transparency and vulnerability and sharing of their story and do they eat their own food? Yeah, there's a lot of soft sides to evaluating this. And as far as the fee structure, yeah, I used a flat fee for a project, and it was $2,000 for an onboarding project. That sounds a lot, but I didn't see it as a lot. And for an estate plan, you can pay $2,000 to $5,000, and this is your financial life. So, I mean, it's not going to be just a quick 1 hour, $100 to $300 or $400 thing. This is creating an estate plan, which it was okay with me. And that's where we started. And he deals with accumulators at one fee schedule and decumulators, which is more complex, at another fee schedule. But it's right there in your face when you go look. And there's a lot of education. Do they have a blog? Do they have a channel? Are they doing a podcast? Are they trying to educate people? And with risk parity, you have to do a bit of education because people don't necessarily know what it is, and you can be adverse to that. Oh, that's something strange, or that's something new. Oh, it's not exactly what everybody's doing, the Joneses, the Bogleheads. And he had a lot of education on there, a lot of videos saying this is what we do, why it works.
Okay, that's helpful.
Yeah. I mean, if they're into education, because you're going to trust them with your money just like you're going to trust a doctor with your life.
Right. There's so many ways to get to know some of these professionals because they can have their own podcasts. They can have their own educational platforms that they do, and that'll give you a really good sense of who they are. So I just wanted for our audience to get a good sense of what your process was and why you decided to work with a planner. So let's talk a little bit about what happens now. So are you retiring? Are you cutting back being an ER physician? Tell us, with this newfound financial independence where you got the stamp of approval from this planner, what will you do with that newfound freedom?
Well, that's a really difficult question, probably the hardest question you've asked me all day, but it's the elephant in the room. There's one more thing I want to say about the planner risk parity. It's a powerful tool for late starters in particular, because we're all used to the 4% rule. 25 times your expenses as a safe and potentially too safe at times rule. It's now the 4.7% rule that we talked about with Bill Bengen. But with risk parity, you don't have to have the biggest nest egg. You don't have to oversave. Late starters may not be able to oversave and follow the traditional FIRE path where there's a buffer. There may not be as much of a buffer. You want to preserve and protect your wealth. And at a lower net worth, if you retire with a sort of 5% safe withdrawal rate, you can meet your spend with a lower number. And just for purposes of explanation, I mean, we are retiring with potentially $500,000 to $1 million less that we would have needed on the 4% rule, because of the style that we've constructed our distribution or drawdown portfolio. So anyway, I just want to make sure that was out there. As far as what happens next, like I said, it was okay. It's a number, we've reached it. It gives you leverage. It gives you true choice, autonomy, the potential for time freedom. It's scary. It's an identity crisis. What's next? It's not just you're giving up. I may be burned out. I may be tired. I may have worked for 31 years and ready for this, but I'm not resigning the next day. And then you're at risk for one more year syndrome. And a lot of people talk about this. Are you going to regret that you didn't retire when you found out you were FI? How are you going to spend your time wisely when you don't necessarily have to spend it doing what you've been doing? Now, in previous generations, people work till they're 80, work till they're 70 because they don't know what else to do. And they would lose their identity. They would lose the structure in their life. And that's okay. If that's what lights you up, and it's not just you don't know what else to do, that's fine. The retirement police, as Mr. Money Mustache says, aren't really out there. Nobody should judge you on how you choose to live after FI. And I'm choosing right now, I think there's a glide path to it. It's not a cliff. I think there's, okay, assess where you are, and then you've got to make decisions on how you want to spend your time. I'm going to probably glide out of work over the next 3 years. I'm a shift worker. I do 10 shifts a month. I've already been semi-retired, really, because I'm not doing 12 or 14 shifts a month. I cut it back so that I didn't burn out as fast, and I could work longer to get to FI. Instead of working more and faster and accelerating burnout, I chose a different lifestyle. So I actually have now, I call retirement days, where I'm here to do a podcast. I'm not working. I've recovered from work and I'm doing, again, what I love, which can be seen as a side hustle, but it's really a side passion. And we've talked about that.
Yeah, so you'll continue with the podcast, right? That's a selfish question.
Yeah, I mean, this is one of the joys of my life. The best part about the journey has been the community. It's not about the math of the numbers. I mean, my friendships and relationships have exploded over the last 3 years of the podcast. It's one of the things that brings me joy. And I think it's the collaboration and kumbaya of joining our Facebook group at one level, going to conferences at another level, having meetups at another level, traveling with people like this. There's so many ways within the community to enjoy your time freedom. Everybody makes their own choices. I'm knowingly participating in the 1 more year syndrome, potentially the 3 more year syndrome. And I may glide back at 63, which is 62, 63, the average retirement age, to 4 shifts a month. And then I have leverage to say, I'm only working days. I'm not working weekends. I'm not working holidays. Take it or leave it. Because all my life it's been from the corporate side. It's the negotiation is my way or the highway. You either take what we offer or there's no negotiation. But now I'm in that seat and I can negotiate. I went back and asked for more pay. I said, I have a lot of value here as a senior physician. What about that performance bonus? What about the increase in the hourly? Because you know what? It's harder to replace me and cost you more than it is to keep me. And there's the value of making a difference because we all want to make a difference in other people's lives. We're driven to work in a capacity that gives to others. And the first thing I thought about, really, when I became FI was, how can I give more? The financial power of being FI was, okay, how can I help my kids build wealth in their critical 20s where it's hard to save with a entry-level $50,000, $60,000 salary? Life is so expensive now. How do they buy a house? How do they put money and max out their 401k, their HSA, Jackie, their Roth IRA, and put some in taxable and save for a college education for their kids? There's a lot of opportunities. And what's frustrating for me as a parent is to watch the Roth IRA go empty at the end of a year, is to watch the HSA, which my kids have access to, go empty. So yeah, they need skin in the game. Absolutely. They need to do what they can. And ideally, they have a 10% savings rate. But we have the resources now, especially since we're still working, to think less about ourselves and more about living giving, giving with warm hands, not being a hoarder, a frugal hoarder, where our wealth grows to infinite or at the end of our life. Give when it matters more. Give to your charities. Give of your time. It's about giving back. It's about being a mentor for the next generation. It's about handing off the torch. I love talking to the young generation at work who are full of questions. I was talking about 529s with a parent of young kids, and he hadn't set them up yet. And I said, well, here's a book, and I can talk to you about them. Let's help you out. And he was so grateful because he said, nobody's talked to me about this. And so I love that. We love that on the podcast. I want to work on overcoming imposter syndrome and be a keynote speaker because I think I have a story to tell. I think I have a message to give. I think I want to inspire people like you. I mean, you're a mentor for me. Look what you've done with your post-retirement life, retiring at 49. I've known you since the day you retired.
And shoot, you're a mentor for me too. I love that you are talking about how do you pass this on? How do you pay it forward? Everything from your kids to charity to people at work. That is where we can all make a huge difference. And you wrote this, a financial life policy statement, as you were in the midst of this, and we'll include a link to it somehow. But I just appreciate you seeing this as being something bigger than yourself. So I want to try to leave it where you share maybe your top 1 or 2, I guess, advice for our late starters post you becoming FI and post you getting your finances together because you learned a lot in the process.
My first piece of advice is to reverse engineer your life. Start with your tombstone. It's not going to say I worked till I died. It's going to say I was a great father, husband to my kids. I was a great friend. I left it all on the table and did all the things that I wanted to do and didn't define myself with what people thought I should do or how they saw me. So reverse engineer your life to avoid the 5 regrets of the dying, Bronnie Ware. Read about taking stock from Jordan Grummett. Start at the end, because that's the ultimate goal, that you want to live your best life as we talk about it. You're free in the present. You can be hung back and weighed down by the past, and you can be optimistic about the future. So reverse engineer it from a numbers standpoint. So I should be FI at this time. That's fine. That's important. Money is a tool only to help you live your best life. Don't let it be your identity. Don't let it be your only focus, because you'll get lost in that, thinking you're not free when you're FI. You can be free throughout your life and leading a balanced life. Okay, you want to avoid regret at the end. And retiring early gives you a longer period of time to do these things, have second, third, fourth chapters, reinvent yourself, be a curious child, mentor the next generation. I mean, there's so much to do with your golden years, the Goldilocks time. And I don't regret that I became FI at 60. Not really. Why let yourself be hung up on those regrets? I have lived a great life. I mean, I could die tomorrow and be a happy guy. I want to see my kids find a partner, know that they're going to be okay without me. That's all I really care about, that they're happy. And so it would be nice to see some of that they're more settled. And that's what I'm working on now with helping them create a financial foundation. That's my focus, is let's get them off on a good foundation so they can build a good house, a sturdy house that doesn't get blown over by the big bad wolf because it's made out of straw. So focus on your kids, focus on others around you. Those are some of the things I'm thinking about. You know, I'm on a board at a children's hospital where we try and help families with one of the biggest traumas in their life, kids with cancer. I take my dogs there, and as a doctor, I can stand on the other side of the fence, the other side of the equation, where I have no responsibility for their health care, but I have every bit of responsibility for bringing them a little bit of joy and distraction at a time where they're just devastated and overwhelmed, and they don't know I'm a doctor. I don't identify, as we talked about at the beginning, the rich doctor syndrome. Maybe it's a syndrome. Identify with that. I identify with the FI community. I identify with my friends and going on trips with them, going on trips with my sons. Hell, I'm going on spring break as an old guy with my son and his girlfriend to New York. Spend money on spending time lavishly with the people that you love and growing that circle of friends and family. I don't even know if I answered your question.
You did. I think a lot of us, I just wanted to get a sense of, after you've gone through this journey and reached the financial independence you've reached, what was some of the advice? And you shared a lot of great stuff throughout the whole podcast. So I just, as you being the founder of Catching Up to FI, I wanted to make sure our audience was some of the first to get an opportunity to peel back the curtain, push back the curtain a little bit, and actually see everything. So thank you for being so open and vulnerable. Thank you for all the tips and exactly what you were doing to get to this point, to know that you were FI. And it's just amazing how much has changed how you see things and some of the things that you're doing different. So thank you for that.
One more tip, actually, and this is tantamount. Read Peter Attia Outlive is a book. Focus on your health span. I see all the time in the ER people reaching financial independence, retiring, looking forward to delayed gratification of the things they didn't do during their life, and then they come into the ER with ache or pain or this or that. And I, unfortunately, have the responsibility sometimes of telling them they have terminal cancer. So you never know when, life changes dramatically. Focus on your health span. I have to do that. That's not something I've done a good job at. I've been delaying that. You want to have the smallest gap between health span and lifespan. You want to live your best life where the end is the shortest possible. I want to have a rapid demise. The worst thing to have is dementia. You want to stave that off. Exercise your brain, exercise your body, stay active, eat right, sleep a lot. We've talked about this on the show too. There's no point in having the money unless you can enjoy it. We talk about the go-go, slow-go, and no-go years. That's passe. But you want the go-go years to be the longest you can, the longest possible for travel. And you want to be able to do things and maintain, get on the floor with your grandkids and be able to get up off the floor. You're a new grandmother.
Yeah.
So don't neglect your health as one of your biggest assets and focus to its exclusion on money. That would be one of the biggest pieces of advice I would have.
Yeah, absolutely words to live by. And thank you so much for everything today, Bill. This was awesome. I know our audience will get a lot out of it. I got a lot out of it. Thank you just for letting it flow here. We're going to go ahead and end the show, but we will catch you next time on Catching Up to 5.
Thank you, Jackie. This has been really cool and helps me reflect. And we all need to reflect. It's New Year's. And it's a time to reflect on the past year and plan for the next year. This is the anniversary, 3-year anniversary of Catching Up to 5. I can't believe it. It started as a 10-episode hobby, and it's grown into, hell, we're influencers now, Jackie.
Oh, I guess we are. And you know what?
we get so much gratitude from our community. I get more thank yous from our audience, our community, than I get from patients in the ER.
I remember you always saying that, and that means a lot.
Yeah, give to your community. Don't think you can't make a difference out there with the knowledge you're garnering. Share it. As a final calls to action, I would say this year, bring as many members who need the message into our community. We are the silent generation. We are the lost generation. We are Gen X a lot of the time. And you can't lecture at people that need it, but you can sort of say, hey, check this out. See if it resonates with you. And it doesn't matter if it's our podcast or our community. Everybody has a different entry point to this, but they need to hear the message. Help others, write a review on the show, promote the show if you can. It's not for us. It's for those people that are trying to find us.
But we got a little extra. Always remember, it is never too late. It's better late than never, and it's always the right time to catch up to 5.
Love it. Great tagline, Jackie. I'm talking too much as always, and I'll close with saying we'll see you next week on Catching Up to 5.
So, Bill, as you know, we cannot do this show without our amazing staff and the people that help us put this on. And our editor is Fritz Brizard. We love them, and they keep us going.
Yeah, Jackie, I mean, this show wouldn't have the quality it has without our folks, our peeps. And we'd also like to give you a few calls to action for the show. We love our community, and we hope you love us back. If you would like to support the show and our mission to help late starters, you can do that at Buy Me a Coffee, which is a platform that allows you to make a donation. The link is in the show notes and on the website.
Check out the show notes for resources mentioned in today's show. Also, head on over to our website at catchingupto5.com and check out our vetted resources, partners, and affiliates for discounts and their services, because we love sharing great deals.
Please share the show with others and head on over to our Facebook community to help us grow. If you prefer video, head on over to YouTube and watch the show there. We hope you've enjoyed this episode of Catching Up to 5. We would appreciate it if you could also leave us a 5-star review to help our message reach others.
And while we are financial educators that love to teach, remember that our content is for general education and information purposes only. We are not providing financial, legal, or tax advice. Always do your own research or consult a professional before making important decisions.
So, Jackie, we'll see our audience next time on Catching Up to 5. Cheers.